What's going on, everybody? I'm Jason with Tennessee Mountain Homestead, and today we're going to find out how much all these tractors weigh. We're going to take these things in the shop one at a time and weigh them with 4 dial scales. Each one can measure up to 300 pounds. They're cheap Walmart dial scales, but they do work. We're going to put one on each tire and see what each one weighs front, back, and side to side, plus a total weight. Before we get started, I'm going to give it a little bit of an introduction to each tractor. Now this one is obviously a Craftsman DYT 4000. I believe it's a 2004 model. It's got a 18.5 horsepower Briggs & Stratton Intech single cylinder under the hood. It has 0 modifications. As a matter of fact, my dad gave this to me earlier this year, and the engine was basically detonated by the camshaft decompression. So we rebuilt that, fixed that, cleaned it up, put new blades on it, and this thing cuts our grass. The second tractor in the lineup is no stranger to this channel. I'm sure many of you who watch know this thing in and out. So we already weighed it yesterday. In yesterday's video, we know how much it weighs. It weighs 760 pounds, but we're still going to put the dial scales under the tires so we can see what kind of bias we have. Third tractor in the lineup is a 2004 John Deere L120. This is the first tractor that I've ever bought and owned as an adult in my life. And it's got a factory stock Briggs & Stratton V-twin Intech. It runs perfect. And the modifications to this tractor so far to date have been, I took out the stock Tough Torque K46 and we put in its place a Tough Torque K66, which is for the G100 series of John Deere garden tractors. So it's a much more robust, strong rear end. Also, it has a whole bunch of added steel in the rear end. When I made the 2-inch receiver hitch on the back of this thing, there's a ton of 1/2-inch plate and all kinds of other things, plus the receiver tube itself. As you can see, what I was talking about, it's got that heavy duty deal going on right there. And it also has an external fuel cell because the stock gas tank wasn't going to work with the K66 into the fan and all that. There wasn't enough clearance. So I took out the stock gas tank, put that on. And also, this tractor is also known around here, we call it the Rebel. Next up, we've got a 1983 John Deere 111. Now this tractor was given to me by a gentleman, a super cool gentleman that lives down in Fort Worth, Texas. I met him when I was working in Texas last year on the road. So anyway, he gave me this tractor and he gave me a spare motor, which I ended up using over the one that was in it from factory. It's got a 12 horsepower industrial commercial Briggs flathead that runs super sweet. This thing runs like a sewing machine. And the only mods to this tractor to date are the 801 Peerless. I did take that apart, I re-greased it, put some new seals in it and stuff like that, and then we welded the diff solid. And also it has ag tires on the front, I don't forget where I got them, probably eBay, and it's got 19-inch ATV tires on the back. Next up is a 1984 or 83 John Deere 216. I just got this thing a few weeks ago, and it currently does not run. But the reason I have this out here is because it's a complete 200 series tractor minus the deck. We got rid of all those a couple weeks ago. But it has all the stuff underneath it the deck hangs from. It's got the shafts, the levers, all the stuff underneath it. So it's basically a complete tractor, and we can get an idea of what I started with on my mud mower before it was converted into what it is today. So this is going to be a good reference and a good data point. And last in the lineup, we have my son Stefan's new build. This is his 1980 something. I think it's 83 or 84. I don't know. It's right in the same era. John Deere 212, obviously. And it's got the stock Kohler K-Series 12 horsepower cast iron deal, single cylinder and all that. Now this tractor has very little modifications yet. He has put some off-road LED lights in the front, and he has gutted all of the stuff that was to work with the deck. So we went underneath the tractor and took all that metal and all them shafts and all that stuff out of there. So we're going to see what this thing weighs minus the stuff it doesn't need. But it still obviously has the stock variator, which mine doesn't have anymore, and all the associated stuff that works with the variator. So without further commentary, we're going to get these things in the shop on flat, smooth ground, get them weighed. All right, first contestants up on the block. So here's how we're doing it. We got a floor jack on the front and on the back. Right now the tractor is suspended by the floor jacks. We've got these dial scales under the center of each tire on all four corners. Now I'm going to very gently let this thing down on the scales. And we should start getting some readings. All right, so the results are in. The front left, as I'm standing, as you were sitting on it, the front left is 115 pounds on that wheel. The front right is 120 pounds. The left rear is 115 pounds, and the right rear is 110 pounds, for a grand total of 460 pounds. And we're gonna keep all the scores on this piece of paper right here. We got some interesting results on my tractor. Now, I did take off this solid steel multi-implement receiver hitch out of the equation because it's probably about 10 or 15 pounds by itself. Anyway, the total weight on these four scales is showing that it weighs 717 pounds as opposed to what the junkyard scale said at 760. Now that thing rounds by tens. So if it was 750 on that scale, and I don't know. So anyways, I'm coming out with 717. And on the front left, I got 169 pounds on that wheel. On the front right, I got 170 pounds on that wheel. The left rear, I got 198 pounds. And the right rear, I got 180 pounds. All right, guys, one tangent I'm gonna go off on real quick is that as I jacked this thing up, I noticed that my locker is broken. The welds on the shaft to the pinion gears are broke. Those welds must have broke. And I think I heard it break like the very first day after I tried it out. We were out in the driveway doing tug of war and pulling the van and pulling the other tractor, pulling the heavy Kubota. But I did put the weld in between the teeth on the other gears, and so it's not completely, it's still locked in one direction. It's just that now they can rotate left and right about I don't know, it's at a third of a turn. Anyway, I thought that was interesting. Not the end of the world. It's still locked. We just got done weighing the Rebel, the John Deere L120, and we came up with each one of the front tires has 100 pounds on it. The left rear has 140 pounds on it, and the right rear has 137 pounds, for a grand total of 477 pounds. Fire it up. We just weighed the John Deere 111, and all three of us thought for sure this thing was going to be like 300 pounds soaking wet. Apparently that's not the case. The front tires, each tire has 95 pounds on it. The rear tires each have 113 for a grand total of 416 pounds. Now, this thing also has a 2-inch receiver I put in the back of this thing to pull around the trailers and stuff. So we did take out the big 6-inch drop trailer hitch, and that thing weighs about 20 pounds. So without that, it weighs about 396. But still, 400 pounds is quite a bit more than we thought this thing was going to weigh. We just got done weighing the old John Deere 216. Now this was purchased as a parts tractor, but it's basically complete and it's absolutely beautiful with the patina. So instead of tearing this thing apart, we're probably going to get it running eventually and just use it around here as like a workhorse or something. It's just too nice to take apart and tear down. Anyway, we come up with a grand total on this tractor of 641 pounds. Now, like I said outside, it does have everything underneath it except the mower deck, but we did notice that the PTO is missing off of the front crankshaft, so it's missing that weight. Anyway, it's still mostly complete, and the front left has 154 pounds on the wheel, the front right is 158 pounds, the rear left is 170 pounds, and the rear right is 157 pounds. Like I said, for a grand total of 641 pounds. We just weighed the last tractor, which is Stefan's project tractor, the John Deere 212, and we came up with 145 pounds on the front left, 160 pounds on the front right, 165 pounds on the right left, the rear left, sorry, and 150 pounds on the rear right, for a grand total of 620 pounds. Now, one point of interest is, like we said in the beginning, he took a whole bunch of crap out from under this thing that hangs the deck, the rod that adjusts the deck height, all that stuff. He did put the off-road LEDs back in it, some minor wiring, and he added these tire chains on the turfs until he can afford to get some sort of mud tire. So the tire chains probably add 10 pounds, who knows. Anyway, his is 620. The stock 216 out there that has mostly everything underneath it is 641. So he took out about probably 30 pounds of material of extra weight. Just for reference, this is my little sheet that shows all the different mowers, the weights on each tire, just in case anybody's interested. Alright guys, that's going to be a wrap for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed today's content. Gave some of you some sort of insight about what these lawn tractors actually weigh, and some of these garden tractors. If you're new to the channel, please comment, like, and subscribe. If you're an existing viewer, please comment. Once again, my name's Jason. This is Tennessee Mountain Homestead, and we'll see you on the next one.